4th year, we hit 1,200 weddings. And 1,200 weddings, 146 vendors, 16 staff. We found the ceiling. My goal, I never built a business, and I never wanted to build a business that was a small business. My father owns a small business. My mother works in a small to medium business. I just didn't want to do it. I wanted to build something that had impact across the world. I thought that would be the greatest. And societally speaking, there's this war between creatives and business types. And I've always played the gap. I love the gap. I've always been a creative. My brain goes a mile a minute. I enjoy the creative, but I've been strapped down by my family and my roots to be like, hey, no, you can't just be a creative. You have to have a mission. You can't be just a dreamer. You have to be a doer too. Where do you want their attention to be focused? That is one of the best ways to think about it. And that's why I think operations and strategy is going to become so important in the coming years, because coding, we're getting to a point where, man, I can build some custom things overnight. Really cool.
Welcome back to the Hustle and Grind podcast, the show where we dig into why real entrepreneurs trade comfort for conviction. This isn't about vanity metrics or overnight success. It's about the stories behind building a reputation that actually matters. I'm your host, Andrew, keynote architect, platform builder, and fellow founder in the trenches. Today, I'm sitting down with Daniel Krikorian, the founder and CEO of Be Remembered, a next-generation technology company that's bringing automation and honesty back to the wedding industry. Daniel doesn't just write a business plan. He's a self-taught developer who spent years personally designing and coding his dual SaaS platform to ensure both couples and creative professionals could thrive. After a decade in the trenches of event production, he's empowering vendors to scale efficiently while simplifying one of life's biggest moments. We're going to dig into the conviction it takes to become your own architect. Daniel, thank you so much for being on the podcast today. I appreciate it. We've already had a hell of a good time in the beginning, so I know this is going to be an awesome. We had our own separate podcast, separate from this. So.
Pretty much, yeah.
So I know it's going to be an awesome episode today. But first of all, thank you so much for being on. Really appreciate you.
I appreciate it, Andrew. It's going to be a fun time, that's for sure.
Absolutely. So we heard a little bit about you in your bio, but I am kind of curious to hear. Tell us a little bit about yourself in your own words.
No, geez.
And what you do.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'll kind of rewind. I'll be quick with it, but I'll rewind a bit here. So, no, I guess it's always where to start. But essentially, I was in broadcasting for some time, sports broadcasting specifically. Me and my business partner at the time, we love all things sports, always have. I was a rower in college after baseball. Did triathlon since, run, the whole 9 yards. I love fitness. Never thought I'd be in weddings in my life. I have to admit that. Kind of a weird story, but you'll hear it in a second. But essentially what had happened was we're in broadcasting. We're struggling to get by. Starting a network is much harder than you'd think, but we're getting thrown around the U.S. to film for Spartan Race, Tough Mudder, all of these other smaller races. Really enjoyed doing it, but it's a lot of work, a lot of money. And I get an offer to start doing more commercial work. Basically, I had an advertising sponsor of ours call us up and was just like, Dan, we love your mind. Can you go ahead and put together a commercial for us? I was like, sure. They wrote me a check for once instead of getting it on the advertising and all that. And I was like, oh, that sounds nice. So yeah, I like money. Oh, wow. I forgot what it meant to make it outside of me just making it at 5 different jobs and spending it, not good. To pay my people, it's not fun. So I said, yeah, we'll do that. My business partner says, what are you doing? And I was like, just trust me on this. And we start building our business up and we start paying down all the debt. We start, taking care of our equipment. We start paying ourselves. Everything feels really good here. We're starting to build a system. And, God, we get into 2019 and we're feeling really good. We're feeling like we have a good group of core customers that we're, taking care of, have this production company. Everything is really trending in the right direction. And we're saying, okay, we got through it. We're in. And then COVID comes, and COVID wipes my entire company out, top to bottom. And all of my customers, I keep wanting to say couples because now they're couples, but all of my customers, they get wiped off the face of the earth. They're really in a place where they're not spending on marketing anymore. They're not spending on commercials, social media content. They're just trying to survive because we're all small business to medium. And so we're sitting on our hands, not knowing what to do. And I'm listed on this site, Thumbtack, and I'm listed under wedding and event photography, videography, because that's how small businesses would find us every once in a while. Mm-hmm. And someone reaches out and they say, "Can you do my wedding?" And I said, "Jesus, I have nothing better to do." So I said, "Sure." So I go there, I do it, I get a 5-star review. That's weird for me because weddings are supposed to be elite. They're supposed to be tough. Why are you giving me a 5-star? Like, I'm not worth it. I hate to do it like that, but I'm 3 stars max at this point. As far as
it's just coming out the back of my trunk. I mean, come on.
Correct. Like, what are we doing here, right? So then I get, oh my God, 50 inquiries in the next week. And I look over my partner. I'm like, "We're doing weddings now." He's like, "What are you doing?" I was like, "I don't know, James, but I'm not, sitting here on my hands getting a paycheck from the government. We're going to make some serious money." So we go out there, we start booking everything photo and video to the point where, we have to hire 2 friends. But one of the things that starts happening is I realized that my approach, because I have an operations background, a marketing background, a psychology background. It's weird, but that's what it is. You can even throw in some economics there too. So there's a lot going on in my brain. And I start building an operations guide and manual and, standard operating procedures for this business. I'm going to buy the equipment so I have a fixed cost. I'm going to go ahead and pack it for you every weekend. We're going to make sure that, there's 3 places where your content goes, so that way it's never deleted until it's sent to the couple. We're going to do all of these really simple things that make for good operational practices. And apparently the creatives in this industry had never learned to do that, because we get flooded with 5 stars and we go from 0 to 146 weddings the first year. Mm. Oh yeah. And so we're driving around New England trying to, do this. And next year we bump it up to 447 weddings. Mm. Third year we go 876 weddings. And we're adding on services like DJ and, planning and coordination. And we're realizing that there's no centralized hub to manage all of this mess that is your vendors for the big day, because the big day is so important, so much stress. You're not a company. You don't have the resources as a couple to go ahead and to deal with all of the, can I swear here?
Yeah, sure. Might as well.
Okay. all of the shenanigans. I'll tame myself.
We'll go
all
with
the shenanigans.
With the autocorrect version.
Correct. I auto-corrected myself. But all the shenanigans that you have to deal with. You have to deal with, 7 to 15 different vendors on your day, the contracts, the insurance, all of this nightmare. And we were compressing it into one company so that way you could deal with us. We would deal with the vendor. We'd match up. We would take care of this. Now, 4th year, we hit 1,200 weddings. And 1,200 weddings, 146 vendors, 16 staff. We found the ceiling. And, my goal, I never built a business and I never wanted to build a business that was a small business. My father owns a small business. My mother works in a small to medium business. I just didn't want to do it. I wanted to build something that had impact across the world. I thought that would be the greatest impact. So I'm sitting there trying to figure out what in the heck to do, because we're at 1,200 weddings. There's cracks in the foundation because the train was going at 100 miles an hour, and we just tried to keep up. And now we're sitting there going, this can't scale. Customer satisfaction's going down because, well, that's a lot to deal with, and no human's perfect. And in a wedding, you expect perfection. So what are we doing here? So, we explored everything from franchising to a logistics system that can go throughout the U.S. And then we explored sending this project overseas to build an app and to automate this whole thing. Now, credit where credit's due. I have one of the most intelligent and amazing fiancés, and she has worked in the private equity SaaS space forever. And she took a good look at my company and said, what in the heck are you trying to actually accomplish here? What are the pain points that you're trying to solve? What tasks are being done on a daily basis, and how can we attack this? And so we did a lot of whiteboarding. We whiteboard everything in our lives, and we realized that the majority of emails coming in were could have been automated. We weren't doing a good job of just explaining how to access your invoice, how to pay it. The amount of emails I got every day of just how to pay it. I had someone that I hired with a large salary just helping couples with mundane tasks that a system could have done for us. But the problem was there wasn't systems out there. So I ended up learning how to code using AI and building the entire system from scratch. And this year, when we did 60 weddings in a day or 70 weddings in a day, we got 0 emails and everything functioned properly with automation. So that is my story in a nutshell. That's who I am. I own BeRemembered.io and Be Remembered Studios.
And I think that is the perfect entrepreneur story. It's like, it starts to get, I'm starting to get some money here. Let's just figure it out.
Yeah.
And it's something we're really good at. And I've seen it, so many people be successful at this over and over again that, it's really interesting that it's like, I really didn't want to get into weddings, but hey, I saw this happen and now we can do this. And now we're revolutionizing this entire industry. Right.
Yeah. Well, then there's another piece too, I had the operations background, both from production and from growing up. My father's an engineer. It was always, operating procedures for everything. and so,
you can do chin-ups on? Yeah.
It was like, get your boots on. Let's go. So there was an operating procedure for life. And in the creative space, it was just so interesting because people came in and took advantage of it. There was Wedding Wire, and I don't mean that in a negative light, but they said, how can we help the couple? But I always thought to myself, the couple isn't the one having the issues. The vendor's having the issues, and so it's creating a bad experience for the couple. And so it was like throwing a Band-Aid instead of fixing the actual problem. And that's where my focus went on. It was like, how do I make a better day for that vendor so that way they can create a better wedding for that couple? That was really my thought process.
I want to go back to the creatives and the small businesses who are involved in this, because I think it's a really important point here. And that is, were you finding them that they were owning a job where they just were kind of doing the same things, or were they running a business well? And I think there's a difference between the two. There's going out and just finding these people and doing it like you're hired for a company, but you actually work for yourself, or actually being able to scale a company, have the process in the back, have the systems, have the follow-up, which is different than going out and doing what you love just because what you love doing it without thinking about the business. That distinction clear.
Fair enough. Yeah. I mean, for the creative, we're talking about the creatives here, correct?
Okay.
Yeah. For them, and it's to no fault of their own. There's 2 major issues at play here. Number one, they don't have the resources, right? The resources and the understanding that a wedding, I'd say, is 90% structure and 10% creative, is a false promise that's given to them of you can express your creativity. People will pay high dollar for that. And, happily ever after, full pun intended there. So that's number one, right? It's just they were never given those resources. They don't understand how to do it. If they do, they excel really quickly. And so that's what I've always noticed. If you talk to the great wedding photographers, videographers, venues, they're actually very SOP driven, right? Like they're very particular about this. But it's a difficult thing for the creative to have both minds, the business and the creative mind. And so what my software has done now, and we're selling the software as a monthly subscription SaaS base, because I want to provide that to them. The automations, they just don't know how to do that, nor do they care to. And I don't want them to. I want them to be an incredible creative and not have to worry about that stuff. But then there's the second part of it that's really ugly, but it's the truth. And societally speaking, there's this war between creatives and business types.
Yeah.
And I've always played the gap. I love the gap. I've always been a creative. My brain goes a mile a minute. I enjoy the creative, but I've been strapped down by my family and my roots to be like, hey, no, you can't just be a creative. You have to have a mission. You can't be just a dreamer. You have to be a doer too. And so you need the operating procedure. You need all of that. And, but I've been criticized. I mean, I had someone come into me one day and be like, a guy who just started working, young creative, came in, and I'll never forget it, lived in his parents' basement. And I mean no offense by that, but he was just, he was past that time. And he said to me, he's like, you're not a creative, you're a businessman. You don't know what I'm talking about. I said, do you think that you don't need to, have creativity to build a company this large in 3 years and understand how it all works? Are you kidding me? Do you not understand the amount of creativity that entrepreneurs have? And he just looked at me stunned, and I was like, you stop thinking this way. It's so ugly for you. You can be better than that. So yeah, that's just the case there. I'm trying to give them that opportunity to succeed and to have the SOPs without having to develop them themselves.
Mm-hmm. And I think it's an important thing to understand, because I think a lot of creatives do that, where it's like, hey, I just want to go off and do my own thing. Hey, I've been totally, I've done this myself a number of times.
Yeah.
Where it's just like, just let me write my stuff. The sales and stuff is over there. I don't want to deal with it, right? But I wanted to bring that up to say that, no, there's another part of it. And I think it's something, especially in the wedding industry, where you're right. It's mostly SOP based. People don't want to have a wedding photo that looks like an art shoot. They want a wedding photo that looks like a wedding photo.
It's that. But listen, if you're not in the right place at the right time, knowing, having the right equipment taken care of with the correct storage, yada, 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 yada. If you don't have all the stuff that leads up to it, it doesn't matter how creative the shot is. You still miss the shot. Like, the shot is very simple. It is there. It is those two people. It is them at the ceremony. It is this, it is that. If you're not there with the gear because your gear failed because you didn't plug it in the night before, the SSD wasn't, emptied, or you had to empty it day of and you wiped out for this thing. Like, it's dumb and it sounds small, but it matters. It matters to you. It matters to the couple. And it is the difference between that great shoot, especially when you start doing 40 a year. You can't miss one. So that operating procedure means everything.
Yeah. I was shooting a video course for a client of mine one day, and the videographer, we get this frantic call from him like 2 days after the shoot. And he is just he's usually super easy and cool, and that he is beside himself, like really out of character. Yeah. He's like, my SSD failed. All of that footage is gone. And it was just one of those moments where, this is very unlike him for stuff like this to happen. But again, like, having an SOP would help with a lot of that going, do we upload everything to the cloud like maniacs so we don't have to do this?
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing. So, like, on my software, we offer terabytes worth of space on the cloud, on AWS. We have it in 5 different places. So, we're trying to get people into the habit of, come back, upload it to your cloud drive, put it there. If the customer gets access to it, give them access. If you want to use our AI to edit it, start running that. But, like, it's there, you're safe, you're good. It's on AWS. It's backed up in 5 different places. Yep. You're good. Yeah. Right. Like, now it's just dumb things like that we're trying to put in that, that, again, it matters for them. It matters for us. For us, we have quantity, so we can drive the price down, because if you're one individual going out and trying to, get a 2 terabyte space on Google, it could cost you $200 a month alone. Yeah. So, exactly. In AWS, that's not friendly unless you have, code or some type of.
That's true territory. That's not any.
Correct. I love it because of that. I'm like, you're going to do this here, then it's going to go here, and then I'm only going to have to pay this. But, like, that's how I can drive your price down, because it's in cold storage, and you're like, what? Like the refrigerator storing it? It's like, no. Cold
glacier storage is a beautiful thing. Oh, it's wonderful.
It is.
But yeah, for those that don't know, that's Amazon, by the way. They have a massive back end that they help people. Yeah. they have a massive, they run Netflix, just kind of put it out there.
Correct.
They have for years.
Correct.
Yep.
Yes. Yes.
But so tell me about your experience with building this SaaS platform by yourself as a kind of nerd. Tell me about that way of making this happen. Like what?
Yeah, absolutely. So there's a few things that went on. And I'm going to tell you actually a really important story that I always like to tell entrepreneurs if they're listening. And that is, if you're going to go build software or any type of tech, and you're going to put it in the hands of someone else, forget about the language barriers, forget about any of that. Those are issues in and of themselves if you're sending them over to the Philippines or some other place. The biggest issue is, as you're building, someone is going to be making thousands of micro decisions as you go ahead and build out your site. Oh, this works, that doesn't work. Oh, let's put this in a table. Let's keep this here. Oh, let's make it look like this. Let's use a modal here, which is a pop-up, or this here. And by the time you get it back, that image that you had in your head probably never would have worked, but it's certainly not what you're going to see on the screen. And the reason why I bring that up is I had that experience, and I wanted to place a lot of blame on the language barrier, on all of these different factors, on the time zone, you name it. But what it ultimately came down to was we were just in different places. Mm-hmm. And so what I ended up doing was there's an incredible site called Bolt.new. And Bolt.new just changed over to offering multiple LLMs or language learning models. But what it I think it had its own original model. Mm. And what it would do is it would use GitHub, a place where you store all of your code, to go ahead and store your code and let the LLM reference your code to build a site. That's how I dipped my toes in the water. It is much better now than it was 9 months ago. And when it was 9 months ago, it kept having issues. It was starting to write full code, but it would have issues understanding what you were trying to accomplish with it. So it was getting me 50% of the way there, and then it would really struggle. So what I would do is I would then go do YouTube Academy deep dives. I would do AI asking like ChatGPT, why is this happening? What's an import? What's this? And once I understood the language and how it all functioned, for me, it was just one big operating procedure. It was like, we're going to go ahead and we're going to call this. It's going to sit here. It's going to say that, so forth and so on, But I'm not going to get too complicated for people out there. But what I ended up doing, which was really funny, is I built a mock company. And I actually went out there and I tested out my concept on a very low scale, low concept. And I just went out and I scraped the internet, I scraped email addresses, and I blasted it. And I saw how people engaged with it, what they were doing. It was really basic and simple. How do I get them to buy in? What sales methods worked, et cetera, for SaaS. And that took me on a journey of, oh, shoot, I can actually build this for my company. And then I started step by step building everything from scratch using a system called React Native, which I was told was overkill. But after what I built, I'm told that it's probably dead on. Yeah. So everyone's like, that's too much. And now they're just like, oh, shoot, that's what you're trying to do. That works. So anyway, so that's my journey on how I learned code. I don't recommend it for anyone.
Those rabbit holes have rabbit holes, and then they have rabbit holes too. So yeah.
Yeah, correct. What I would highly recommend to not waste your time too much, and if you have an idea worth backing and you want to go ahead and get it out there as an entrepreneur, use a system like Bolt now. It's even better. To help you understand all of those little decisions that you're going to make. And once you build a system that you can be like, this is actually what I want you to do, and you hand it over to someone, you're going to get a much better product that's aligned with the pain points and what you're trying to accomplish. So, yeah.
And I think one of the big things that you run into when you're developing software, I've been through this process a ton of times, is the nerds say, hey, we can do these real cool things, but nobody asks why, or can the user use it? I spent an hour trying to figure out a problem with my Microsoft subscription for Word and Office that yesterday. And it keeps telling me there was a problem with my subscription. I hit fix. It tells me I didn't have a subscription. Tried like 7 different things. That is what I call when nerds attack. It's like you can't get anything done. As a programmer, I can see in the background like why things are laid out the way they are, but it's not meant for a human to read. Like humans shouldn't navigate this at all.
Yep.
100%. I come from the mindset that a user interface is like a joke. If I have to explain it, it's not that good.
I love that. That is brilliant. That is.
I started programming 25 years ago. We had this one secretary, and I put a piece of code, a piece of software. This was like Visual Basic way back in the day. All right, put a piece of software in front of her. She was the most technologically incompetent person I knew, so I knew I wanted her as my beta tester. And if she could figure it out, that code passed my test. I don't care how good it was.
That's my fiance. She's brilliant. She buys and sells companies. She invests the whole nine yards, raises money. But she'll look at me and I'll be like, "Look what I built, honey." And she goes, "Well, where do I click?" I was like, "Right there, the button." That doesn't make sense. Why would I click there? I'm like,
"Yep."
And where would you like to click, honey? And she's like, "The box." I was like, "Son of a bitch, give me 10 minutes." And I go on there and I like set it up and she goes, "That makes sense." I'm like, "Okay, thank you." Appreciate it.
People that call themselves non-techies or have trouble with tech, I believe they need to understand they have a very unique spot in this world, and that is breaking stuff, so that we figure out what's wrong. I think they need to be they need to be exalted more in this world.
Well, yes. And I'll tell you, so my advisor, we're sitting on a call yesterday, and she has a whole breakdown of everything we're doing, because we're doing a 2-week push to get all the stuff up and running. And she said, "Listen, don't diminish the user experience for gain of the revenue stream. Lose revenue, you'll end up losing revenue in the long run." And I was like, that's such a UX insight that me that's head deep in this thing is just not thinking about. It's like, she goes, "You have 500 revenue streams, but if you try to put them all into a platform, it's going to exhaust the user to the point where they don't use any of them." So she's like, think of how you can make it sticky and keep them on that platform. Think of how, where do you want their attention to be focused? That is one of the best ways to think about it. And that's why I think operations and strategy is going to become so important in the coming years, because coding, we're getting to a point where, man, I can build some custom things overnight. Really cool. Yeah. But just because you can doesn't mean you should.
It's just
and And so it's like,
if you build it, they will come. So, no, nope.
I feel like the middle manager, man, this is your time to shine. The one who heard the words from the boss and told everyone else and could digest that language and translate it. Yep. Those people, it's your time to shine, because you're worth so much, because you can go ahead and say, okay, this is what it needs to do. This is how a normal person needs to look at it. We're going to go ahead and make the operation act like that. And then the code just fills itself in. That's going to be really cool to see, because I think you're going to get, and I could be wrong, I could be so far off on this, but I think you're going to get more better user experience products nowadays. I also think they can be simpler too.
I think you will, because I think user interface, user experience, UI UX has a specific place, and then you have your coders in the background to make it all work, and then the middle manager kind of comes in and does ties everything together and says, okay, here's what you want. But I think there's something with user experience AI is not going to get right. I still think there's going to be people who are UI UX people who can actually sit and think like a human can. The coding side of things is definitely going to be taken over a lot. That's going to be the world that is there. Like sitting down and coding at a desk is not going to really be a thing anymore. Not to the extent that it is today.
No. I mean, the middle manager is still going to have to understand the code and how it's operating and what happens. But it's cool. I mean, I was telling you before, Grok. Grok is a superhero, man. That thing just flies, and it writes in full pages of code. And I'll have to go through and I'll be like, oh, why is this not working? I'll kind of plug it in and I'll get some error messages. And I'm like, what did you do here? Why did you do this? And, it's really also bad at structure. It's bad at like, if you have to give it context, you have to be like, hey, dummy, this is what we're trying to do here. No, I don't say dummy because I don't want to attack me when it's a full humanoid robot.
You want to be next to Skynet and make sure, exactly.
Correct. Yes, absolutely. Yes. but I do, but I'm just like, no. We're trying to do this. Remember, like, this is the goal. And it's just like, yeah, I don't know what you mean there. I'm like, I'll take over from here.
I got this. Although as developers, we did that too. I've been, neck deep in a bunch of code going, where's that bug coming from? And not really. Yeah. So, I mean, I think that's just sort of.
I will throw the code in 100 times. Yeah. I'll throw the code in 100 times. I'll be losing my mind over here. I have my office at home. My fiance is looking at me like, are you okay? You need to sleep. I'm like, no, I'm not going to sleep. I'm going to get this done tonight. And then I'm just like, I'm done. I throw my stuff down. I go in the shower. I'm like, son of a bitch. I know it did.
Yeah.
I was like,
now we know what's going on. Yep.
Yeah. I was like, it needs to do this. And I'm explaining it. And she's hearing me like in the other room being like, are you okay? I'm like, no, I figured it out. She's like, what loser am I about to marry? And I'm like, listen, honey, I get it. I was like, you made this choice. I just want you to remember that.
Just going to throw it out there. Your life's going to be very different. You married an entrepreneur. Just get ready for this.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, she works with entrepreneurs, so she knows how to deal with us, which is, I guess, beneficial. Maybe
I'm going to say just because she also understands the whole work-life balance thing and how that's totally different.
There is none, and we work 7 days a week, and I work 16 days on Sunday. 16 hours on Sundays. Yeah.
Answering emails at 3 p.m. on a Sunday is a thing. Yes.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I answered someone at 3 a.m. the other day, and they were just like, why are you up? I was like, because I couldn't sleep, and I just decided I was going to start coding. They're like, you're a loser. I'm like, I get it.
Yeah.
So, I agree.
I'm a rich loser, and that's what's going to happen.
I was like, and you're welcome. The site works. Get over it, okay? Let's not make comments about my weird sleep schedules. Just let me be, please.
I'm doing a polyphasic sleep, or whatever word we want to use to just say that we're insomniacs.
Basically, yes. Mm-hmm.
All right.
Anyways.
Dan, thank you so much for being on the show. I know we could probably go on for another hour. Thank you so much for being on the show today and dropping so much wisdom. I know this is a part of building companies that a lot of people don't hear, and I think a lot more need to hear it. And that, how do you pivot? How do you get into something that you may not be your strong point, but what do you do and how does it work and the inner workings of it?
Yeah. I mean, what I always say to people too, I met a bunch of entrepreneurs in college, just to leave on this note, that wanted to find the perfect company. They wanted to build the perfect idea, and they weren't going to do it until it came to them. Mm-hmm. And for all of those out there, I would just say it's a bunch of baloney. Don't do that. If you see a gap in the market, if you see something that interests you in the slightest way, and listen, my interest is operations. Mm-hmm. Weddings need it. Okay, so I am fulfilling that need. I am fulfilling my need to be in operations. It's not what I thought I would be in, but sports doesn't need it right now. Maybe it will in 5 years. I don't know, but it's not. So don't be afraid to dive head first into something, see what comes of it, and then make a decision. But I would just say don't stand on the sidelines thinking that it's worth being timid for the perfect idea. I'd say that's just not the case.
Yeah. Put it out to market, see what happens. You will fail. Yeah. Might as well do it fast and often. I mean, do it up front. Just keep going.
Yes, sir. Yeah. And if it's something you don't like, great. Works even better. Makes it even easier to move on. But
there you go. Exactly.
Yeah. But give it a go. So awesome, Andrew. Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
Thanks, Dan. Appreciate you a lot.
Thanks for tuning in to the Hustle and Grind podcast, where we unpack what it really takes to build something that matters. If today's conversation hit home, do me a favor. Share it with someone who's in the trenches too. And if you're building your own brand, platform, or message and want help turning that story into serious authority, head over to theauthorityforge.com to see how we can help. Until next time, keep showing up, keep shipping, and keep chasing the work that sets you on fire. I'm Andrew, and this was the Hustle and Grind podcast.